What the heck is this, and why am I even holding it? Allow me to introduce you to the Zacuto Smart Z Finder. This week I'm going to explain what on earth it is, why it exists, and evaluate if it's something that you should add to your inventory. Let me get this out of the way first. Zacuto sent me this unit to test out and give my thoughts on it. I want to first thank them for the grace that they showed me. I received it just before my father passed away back in November, and they were incredibly gracious with me during my time away from the channel. Been a fan of the company for years, going all the way back to my old days of filming on my Canon 7D and using one of the earlier versions of the Z Finder. And I found myself still to this day pulling out the rapid fire rig when I need that kind of setup for a camera. They make incredibly solid gear, and they back it up with a lifetime warranty. So while they did not dictate anything regarding this review other than just that I take a look at this and let you know what I think, I only thought that it was fair to disclose the fact that they sent it to me to try out, as well as my prior usage and love of their products. The amount that they've done to support the film community is notable, and I'm grateful for. All that being said, what exactly is the Smart Z Finder? The Z Finder is their line of gear that converts the onboard display of a camera into more of a traditional viewfinder or an eyepiece. If you look at some of the news cameras out there, they've got an eyepiece that you can put up to your eye in order to see the image. So why would you want to do that? There's a few reasons for it. First, it allows you to block out the sunlight, so you're able to easier see the screen on a bright sunny day. The screens on our smartphones are designed to be able to be used in full sunlight, but it still can be difficult to see all of the details if you're out on a sunny day. The Z Finder allows you to essentially put a sunshade over your screen and see even the smallest details in the brightest of sun. Second, it gives you an additional point of stability. My last video I talked about how some of the ways that I work to keep my camera stable. This is yet another way to get the camera more stable. I mentioned in that video. It gives you another point of contact with your camera, and it lessens the chance that it's going to float around as you film. So not only do you have two hands, but the stability of your face. It's one of the things I loved about the rapid fire rig. When I used that with the Z Finder, it meant that I had two hands on the camera, my face, as well as on my shoulder. I could stabilize even the tightest of lenses, even when filming handheld. Next, it gives a magnified view of your screen. So not only does it block out the sunlight, it also magnifies the screen so you've got an even clearer view of what you're shooting. This means you can confirm without a doubt that your image is sharp and all the details are exactly what you want to capture. Another benefit to the rig is that, man, does this thing give you mounting points. You can mount pretty much anything you need on this rig, with room to then mount a backup for each. If you're using the full rig, you've got up to 8 pull shoes, 6 NATO rails, 11 1/4-inch mounts, and 16 3/8 inch mounts. It's kind of insane. They've given you a spot to mount anything that you can think of. They actually have a few different setups for the Smart Z Finder line, but we're going to test out the core rig today. Zacuto offers a ton of additional accessories. You can rig this thing out pretty much any way you'd like. When talking with them, they mentioned that their favorite way to use it is called the Director rig. It includes a grip underneath for added stability. It also includes accessory rails up top for even more mounting points, kind of like what I mentioned before. So those are the technical details, but how does it work? Zacuto has made using the Smart Z Finder a painless experience. To start using it, you first scan the QR code on the unit to open a website. This site pulls up an image that you can then use to align the phone with a clamp, using some lines on there. Then you just line up those markings and clamp the phone in. Then it easily attaches using a set of magnets sliding right into the rest of the unit. Within seconds, your phone's ready to film with the Smart Z Finder. I love this because it means that you can easily jump in and out of being in film mode during a shoot. Our smartphones are more than just our cameras. In fact, they started out as phones. So we need to be able to easily jump in and out of them on our shoots. When the phone's in the rig, you still have easy access to the screen. Zacuto added a small opening at the bottom of the Smart Z Finder, allowing you to easily access your screen in order to change settings, focus, or anything else that you need to change while you're filming. When you're using the core rig, you've got a grip on the right-hand side to place your hand. You're then free to use your other hand to either change settings or hold the phone to keep things a little more stable. I found that this unit complemented my shooting style very well, as it allowed me to move my body just to give enough movement instead of trying to balance the camera using my arm. It also kept the camera at eye level, so I found that if I wanted to change the camera height, I would have to then adjust how I was standing. You can always move the camera around without it being on your eye, but this kind of defeats the purpose, and you end up filming blindly. That being said, it's very easy to pop the camera out, so you do still have that option. While the rig's very straightforward, I did run into some issues. As I mentioned, the rig gives you easy access to your phone since it connects via magnets. The issue that I ran into was on the unit that I received, the magnets came unglued and disconnected. Now I did talk to Zacuto about this and they were very prompt to offer a replacement unit, but they also mentioned that they've changed the glue that they're using on their newer unit, so this might not even be an issue anymore. I picked up some of the glue that they suggested and it definitely helped. Once I re-glued the magnets, the issue was pretty much resolved. It's just something to be aware of though. I never had any major issues as a result, like the phone never fell out or anything. It just meant my phone wasn't as secured as they designed it to be, but I never hesitated to use the rig as a result of this. The other issue is that it does somewhat limit some of the shots you can capture on your smartphone if you leave it in the rig. It's easy to pop it out, but I do kind of like leaving it in there just so I can keep going. One of my favorite things of filming on my smartphone is how easy it is to get the camera into spots that I can't normally throw a bigger camera. For instance, just a few weeks ago I was filming a groundbreaking. This was a shoot where I had a larger rig at play, but when they threw their shovels into the ground, I quickly threw my phone into the dirt pile to get a shot of them throwing dirt onto the camera. Made for a cool closing shot for the video, but it's not something I do with my higher end gear. It wouldn't treat it well. The problem with the Zacuto Smart Z Finder is that it makes it harder to throw the camera to those spots quickly because you've got to take it out of the rig or put the whole rig there. It's certainly not a deal breaker by any means, but it's something you're going to want to consider when you're using it, that you might need to think slightly differently about how you're filming. The only other downside is that, man, this thing is big. I mentioned in a previous video how I typically like to have a sling on hand when I'm filming to hold the gear that I need. But this unit pushes the limits of that sling just a little more than I'd like. It does fit, but it's just not the most comfortable. The size is part of the design, so I'm not sure how you can make it any smaller without sacrificing some of the features that make it so great, but it does mean that if you're wanting to use it on the go, then you're going to need to consider how you store it when you're not using it. Finally, the price does mean that it's not really budget friendly. I understand why it's priced as it is. There are no costs spared in the build, and it's very full featured and very solid. When I purchase film gear, I try to think beyond my current camera to figure out if it's something that's going to last me for a few years. Some gear is designed only for the camera I'm currently using, such as a cage, or there are certain support accessories that are just designed for certain camera bodies. Meanwhile, other gear is designed to last me a long time. Things like lenses, tripods, and then there's other sorts of support gear like lens gears and stuff like that. This is a piece of gear that's going to last you a few phones, assuming they eventually stop making phones even larger each year because they just keep doing that. As a result though, it does mean that it's priced at $395 full price. That price is pushing it for a piece of support gear for a $1,200 camera. But the good news is it's typically available at a $199 price point that makes it a lot more accessible. In fact, I've seen it at that price for a while now. So while it's not an impulse purchase, it's a piece of gear that's designed for use for long term, thus the lifetime warranty I mentioned earlier. So what's my final verdict? I'm going to be completely honest with you. When I first heard about the Z Finder designed for a smartphone, I was a little skeptical. I kind of thought it was an unnecessary addition and that it didn't add anything to filming on a smartphone. In fact, it just pulled away some of the advantages of using a smartphone. But after using it, I'm converted. I was reminded why I first fell in love with the Z Finder all those years ago and made it such an integral part of my rig. The Zacuto Smart Z Finder is a very solid piece of gear that on the right shoot holds a special place in my gear bag. If I'm on a trip abroad or just capturing footage while on the go, I don't think this is the tool I'm going to be having along with me. But if I'm intentionally on assignment or telling a story where I've got a little more space to work with, I'm going to very seriously consider making this my main rig. The confidence that it gives me in capturing the shot, the ability to mount all of my sport gear without giving it a second thought, as well as the stability the form factor gives me, means that I know that I'm capturing footage that is top notch. While there's a few logistical issues that I need to work around, I am more than willing to change the way I think while I'm filming in order to work the benefits of this rig in. Honestly though, it all comes down to what rig works best for the footage that you're capturing, as well as the style of shooting you like to do. Some people prefer the most nimble of setups, while other people want the bells and whistles. I would encourage you though, regardless of how you normally shoot, try to push yourself out of your comfort zone and try other rigs. You never know how it's going to push your creativity and inspire you to capture a story from a whole new angle. Either way though, remember, ultimately the gear is just a tool to help you capture the story. It's not about the gear, it's about the story.